Can you hear me all right, Vinny?
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. I know what's going to happen during this episode, Vinny, already, because I tend to converge to other people's voices, and you have a beautifully deep voice going on. So I'm going to have a voice several octaves lower than my usual one. But hopefully that won't be too distracting to listeners or viewers if you're watching this on the YouTube. So if you've not worked it out yet, today I'm delighted to be joined by Vinnie Harris, who I have. I need to get like a badge or something for you, or like a proper like medal here, Vinnie, because you are, for my money, unreservedly the most positive voice on Bond community social media. So welcome, Vinnie.
David, for this opportunity.
No, it's honestly it's my pleasure to have you on because I know we talk quite a lot anyway behind the scenes. But this is when you said that you wanted to come on an episode of On Our Minds Only, I thought it was a great opportunity to sort of peel back kind of, we all have our online presences, don't we? But then just kind of explore the real Vinny. And although you're relentlessly positive, brilliantly positive, as I say, one of the most really highly valued voices in the Bond community, you just absolutely raise everybody up. You are so positive about everybody, but obviously, no matter how positive we all are online, we've all got things going on in our own lives. And I think it'd be quite powerful for you to share some of the things that have been going on in your life for about the last 20 years. And how you've kind of how you've dealt with some of those things, and still emerged on the other side as one of those people who is being really, really positive. So when do we start? At the start, when you're about, what was it, about 8 years old?
Yes. Yeah.
So talk to us about 8-year-old Vinny.
So at 8 years old, I was diagnosed with autism, and I already at that point sort of felt slightly separate anyway from other kids,
Mm,
like in terms of fitting in and
mm,
other things. So it wasn't going to be, let's say, an easy road. And then a few years later, it was ADHD, and then later in teen years, it was then anxiety and depression. It was the full shebang, as it were. Um, but I think my main thing is the whole try to fit in as I can, much as I can, and express myself better and not bottle things up is what my main goal is to do, to
wow.
change
So
how I.
yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, Vinny. So diagnosis or with autism when you were 8, yeah, and
Mhm.
then ADHD later on. Obviously, I work with a lot of young people who are autistic. I work with a lot of staff members who are autistic, and I often say that autism is, it's particularly to children. I say it's like a superpower. It makes you, you might feel different, but it also gives you abilities that you might not otherwise have. But I also know that a lot of young people and more grown-up people do struggle with that idea of fitting in with people. So is that something that resonates with you?
I would definitely say so. Um,
Mm.
I think I always like wanted to be sort of accepted by other people just for me, but it's not something as easy as that. But then I think
Mm.
as I've got older, I think I'm trying to adopt the mindset that my parents said to me, which was, well, you're you. And if someone can accept you for you, then that's their problem, not yours. You shouldn't
Mm.
change because you are you. And basically, I was, you everyone has their own special abilities that they're good at
Mm.
in life.
Mm.
Everyone is good at something.
Mm. Yeah, no, and I think not fitting in is something that actually many people in the James Bond community can relate to. I know I've had lots of chats with people over the years who have said that one of the qualities of James Bond that they can really connect with, although he seems like he fits in with whichever society he moves through, and he's popular with the women, and he's got these work colleagues and so forth, he's ultimately a bit of an outsider. He's set apart from the rest of society, and that's certainly an aspect of the character that I relate to. Is that the same for you?
I would definitely say so, yeah. Like, I think Bond movies always provided a good sense of solace as a child, I found, because it
Mm,
is 2 hours of escapism. But
mm,
also, I think the character himself, yeah, he does have interactions with people, but they're largely for some other benefit. And he is sort of like
mm,
his own person at the end of the day. So
mm,
I think
mm,
a lot of people can relate to that because no one really, I think, with on knows him, if that makes sense. He's very
mm.
secretive.
That's such a perceptive comment. So Bond is ultimately, are we saying that Bond's kind of a bit unknowable in that way?
Yes, I would say so.
So we all think we know who James Bond is, but actually, we don't
Mhm.
really properly get to know what's going on in his mind a lot of the time.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I would say that you can sometimes tell what Bond is feeling, but there are other times where you really can't tell what he's
Mm.
feeling, which is
And
something I can relate to of how
mm,
I can be with stuff like I can appear very outgoing to other people, but then if there's something that sparks my anxiety off, I sort of do the shutdown thing, like
and I
almost
think,
having armor on, really.
well, I was just about to say that actually, because I know you, but you know how much I love all the stuff in Casino Royale, the dialogue around armor and emotionally shutting yourself down so you can kind of continue. So you relate to that as well, don't you?
I would, yes, definitely. I would, yeah, I relate to that.
Is that a coping mechanism that you employ often? Is that something that you find yourself kind of doing
Yeah, but I
quite a
think
bit?
I personally looking at it now, I think I need to change that one and basically be more open about how I'm feeling, which is
Hmm.
what is my main goal, is to do that to improve myself, really.
Hmm. Well, can I just say before we, even before we carry on, I think it's an incredibly brave step that you're taking to do this on a podcast. I know stranger to podcasts. Many people will already be familiar with your voice from quite a few other podcasts that you've done. But to actually talk about this, because I think this is probably the first time that you've actually obviously with me in private and with your family and some of the people, but this is the first time publicly you've really opened up about this. So yeah, what led you to actually want to do this?
I think because I am now on the journey of, because I recently had an assessment for counselling and now I'm
Mm,
list waiting for a counsellor because I decided to take that step. I thought, well, it's sort of my time to be more open and transparent with people, really, in a way. I just think that, and also I was inspired by obviously your other guests on the podcast who
mm.
were all very interested and very open. And I just thought, well, if I can add to the conversation and well, create a dialogue, then I'm more than
Mm.
happy to help with that.
Yeah, and I'm really, really appreciative, really, because there will be lots of people listening to this, maybe people who do have autism or ADHD themselves, or experience anxiety and depression, which I know we'll talk about a bit more in a second. But certainly that feeling of not fitting in with other people, and sometimes comparing ourselves too much with other people, and thinking, these people are wildly popular. These people are doing X, Y, Z with their lives. Why can't I do that? And I think we all do that, don't we? We can't help but compare ourselves with other people.
I think we're all guilty of that. And I think as I, with being 29, approach 30, I sometimes think like obviously it's deemed to be a big age, and you know it's important, and I do get those feelings of like, well, what have I basically done with my life? But then it helps having a family who have always said that if you say they've said, you know, you have accomplished things that may not seem important to other people, but they're important to
Mm,
you. They
mm,
may seem like a little victory to other people, but it's a victory nonetheless. And
mm,
you to have done the things that you probably wouldn't have done X amount of years ago, it said a lot of personal growth, really. Because I personally think the version of me from about like 5 or even like 10 years ago wouldn't have done something like this. So I think again, it's another step in a good direction.
mm. No, I think that's great, and I will just say at this point, I say this quite a lot on these episodes. I am not any kind of counselling professional, psychotherapist, or anything like that. So please just take my advice as one Bond fan to another. But I do advocate counselling, and several other people on this series have advocated counselling. So I think, but being brave enough to actually take that step and say, you know, whether it's offered to you or not, you know, it's so easy to just say no to those things. But you've said yes, you've opted in to having a, you know, chat with a professional, an ongoing series of conversations for however long about the things that have been going around in your head for a long time. So that's a huge step, Vinny. Yeah, it really, really is. And I think you should be really, really proud of yourself for doing that. And what you said about, you know, we all compare ourselves with certain age thresholds. People need to do X by particular ages. But I've always tried, we all do it, but I've always tried not to do that too much, because that way insanity lies. You'll just constantly kind of chase your own tail, and you know, and if you don't, who are you comparing yourself against? Who are we measuring ourselves against? And is it that sort of comparing yourself with other people that you think, I don't fit in with that kind of ideal? And is that what do you think? Again, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychotherapist or anything, but do you think that's possibly one of the root causes of your anxiety and depression sometimes?
Yeah, I would say that. I think having, you know, had plenty of people not be accepting, I sort of almost preempt that people won't like me or accept me.
Mm,
There's that, and then there's the I see other people, and I'm always happy to see people happy, because I think in the world there's a lot of things going on that aren't that nice. So I think it's nice to
mm,
basically be nice to other people. But then other times I'm like, oh well, you know, I wish I had that, or I wish I could do this. But then I think it goes down a slippery slope then of comparing too much, and
mm,
then I just think, well, I don't want to be like that, because I'm not basically a clone of someone. I am me at the end of the day. And
mm.
there's only one of me. There's only one of you. There's only one of billions of people. And basically, I I think I'm learning that, you know, individuality is sort of a good thing.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I think James Bond, something you just said triggered really a thought in my head about wish fulfillment in James Bond. I think sometimes there's such an aspirational lifestyle around James Bond. The clothes, the cars, you know, if you're into that, you know, if you're into women, you know, if all of that stuff, it's like the lifestyle elements. I think
Yeah.
sometimes we can kind of think, oh, I wish I had that life. But ultimately, you know, James Bond's a pure fantasy. You said it yourself, he escaped for 2 hours, but then you're back to reality. And I think sometimes it's like, we can't help compare. Instead of flying around, you know, flying to Monte Carlo to have a high stakes game of cards against a Russian villainess, I'm just going to have to go to Morrison's and do the food shopping. You know, it's like we come crashing down to reality, don't we? So, yeah, I think we all do that to an extent, but it's when we do it too much that things can become unhealthy. So, what sort of approaches have you been taking to kind of try and counter that sort of narrative in your head?
I always advocate trying to get out for like a walk, and I don't mean just like a little walk, I mean like a decent walk, because I find it is a very good head clearer.
Mm.
It's always been something I've stuck by, because like when it rains and you can't get out, I'm usually the worst person. So I'm like, I just want to get outside and actually, go for a walk, because I find that it does clear my head, because and you can work. I always find I can work through things a bit better when I do it personally. And then obviously music and movies is obviously another one. But then I've also found that if you take a particular interest in a certain subject, it has two benefits then, because you in one way you're learning because you're researching something, but also you're entertaining yourself, because and it sort of goes hand in hand really. So I
Yeah.
found that, like, I take an interest in something. I it's not just for me usually a fleeting thing. It's quite in depth, and I'll really deep dive on whatever it is, just because I think I just like knowing things.
Yeah, and I agree, needless to say, I take a deep interest in lots of different things. Having written so much about James Bond, and I found that a coping mechanism. But it's really interesting you highlight exercise as being really important, because, as you know, it's something you and I actually were talking the other day, weren't we, about whether walking, running, it's just essential to kind of keep yourself stable, really, mentally. So how much do you walk then?
um, I have a few routes that I do.
Mm,
I'd say good few of the walks are about an hour and a half, all in all.
wow, okay.
Uh, I do have shorter ones, but I prefer personally. I say I prefer the longer ones, because that you can do more on them, and just as well, you're getting exercise, that you're also seeing the
Mm,
world really.
mm, yeah. So you must get your 10,000 steps in quite regularly.
Everyone says that. I'm like, I don't have a, what do they call, monitor thing for it, so I don't. mm, Probably do, actually. You're probably right.
That's really interesting though, because I worry sometimes about people who, so Anthony, as in husband Anthony, he constantly like on his Apple Watch or whatever, he'll be like, I need to close my exercise rings and all this sort of thing, like gamifying life. Whereas I'm totally the opposite. I've nearly always got an analog watch on. I refuse to do that kind of thing and measure my exercise with apps. I can't. I had a Fitbit once and it lasted all of a week. I couldn't do it. So it's interesting you say that, because I worry about sometimes when people have that kind of technology, that they're doing it to almost compare themselves with other people. Whereas I'm just like, no, I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to do me. I am not going to compete with other people. I'm just going to go running or go for a walk just because I want to go running or go for a walk. The only person I'm competing with is myself. Is that something that you've
Yeah,
ever thought? Have you ever thought about getting a Fitbit, or would that be a very bad idea?
I don't think it would be a good idea, because I think in some ways it sort of takes the fun out of it, because you're thinking, oh, I need to reach this, I need to do that, and it's like, rather than
Mm,
doing it again, I think with life, my uncle once said to me, and it's something that stuck in my head, something to do with life. It's your pace, not a race. And I was like, actually, that is, it rhymes as well. But I was like, actually, that's pretty good, because I think I said to him something to do with
mm.
what we were saying earlier, like, oh, well, I haven't done this in life, I haven't done this, I haven't. And he's like, at the end of the day, it's your life, your business, and what your pace, not a race. And my parents have also reiterated that of, it's all about you making you happy. At the end of the day, that's the main thing that counts.
I think that's quite profound. I think I might adopt your uncle's credo, mantra, whatever myself. It's your pace, not a race. I think that's quite pithy. I think a lot of people. So I know you've listened to every episode of this so far, but when I was talking with David Zaritsky, I hadn't probably quite made so much of a connection between that. So we talked about relevancy and people feeling like, they had a voice in the Bond community and they were popular, and all that side of things. You know, it even comes down to it's you know, numbers of likes and followers and all that sort of thing. And I think sometimes people are just like, I think David himself used the example of those people who've got 10,000 followers. Why don't I have 10,000 followers? And I think you can relate that to what you've just said. It's your pace. It's not a race. And I think we'd probably all benefit from trying to live by that. Do you think?
I would say so, because I think when I was saying it to my uncle, I was mainly referring it to like the fact that, um, you know, I don't really go out like other people. I don't, as I say, I don't do certain other things that people do. Like, I've
Mm,
never really had a significant other. I've never, all the things that I was thinking about, I'm not, that as a society usually expects of. Yeah, I haven't
yeah.
really. It's like, well, says who that? And
Yeah.
my family have also said the same thing. And my dad's like, well,
Yeah.
there's no rule book at the end of the day. It's you
Mm,
get your own rule book in a way.
mm. We write our own script. I can really relate to what you just said because I've talked about this a lot. Growing up gay, I always thought that there would be certain things denied me. So, you know, there's a lot of times people are like, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to get my own house and car and jobs and all that side of things. And that is pre-written for a lot of people. But I think, you know, in your case, when you were diagnosed with autism and then you had ADHD, and you know, there's nothing to say that, you know, people who've been diagnosed with those things can't have those things, but in a, you almost had to sort of find a different narrative path to follow. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, I think that would definitely be it. Like, and like not everyone's path with things is the same, but I think
Mm,
as long as the outcome of it is what you want it to be and
mm,
you are happy with it, then that's the main
mm.
point of it, really.
Yeah, and who's to say that one story is better than another? I know you and I both share a hatred for describing anything as normal or abnormal, don't you? So
Very true.
why do we both hate that term?
Well, I just because there's no such thing really. Everyone is unique, and I always personally think that normal sounds very generic and just like
Mm,
almost robotic in a way of when someone says normal, I just think of everyone. If you line people up looking exactly the same expression,
mm,
no not to differentiate. It just seems very. It looks like existing rather than living,
yeah.
and
Wow.
I never want to be a part of that.
Existing rather than living. Wow. Okay. I think that's definitely something James Bond could relate to. You know, not he's very not normal in many ways, isn't he? He's very different. He's unique. Yeah, I think many of us Bond fans can relate to that.
I would agree. I think that's part of the appeal of the character.
Mm. Mm. So, what else would you share for people who are kind of feeling the way that you do? You know, what would you suggest?
I would suggest if you can't, like, you feel you can't talk to someone about it, write it down
Mm,
and then share it with someone because once it is out of your head, it's mostly out of your head, and then or do it whichever way you feel is the best
mm,
to deal with it. Or I think as well, just I think have I'd say to myself as well, have more faith that other people are there to help and want to help
mm, mm,
with things in life because it may seem that people don't, but a lot of the time people are, and most people are decent,
mm.
lovely human beings who actually want to help and make things better. So sort of look at it from that angle. And also, I'd say one that of just remember that everyone has value in life. Whatever you do, it's everyone is good at something. Everyone has a set
Mm,
of skills. Everyone, it
mm,
may not be academic, it might not be anything that they consider remarkable, but it's something that
mm,
they're good at. So you should sort of hold on to it and sort of wear it,
mm,
wear it with pride, really.
mm. So if you are listening to this, watching this, and you're feeling like an outsider, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Uh, no, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing because you may feel like that, but then think of it as you are unique and
Mm,
you are valuable, you are loved, and you are important to many, many people.
okay, you're not just getting a medal or a trophy as most positive person on the internet, Vinny. You're getting the whole trophy cabinet because that's a beautiful way of putting it. And I know it's not easy, and we all feel, you have your down days. I definitely have down days as well, and sometimes it can be really difficult to kind of turn that around, can't it? But I think, yeah, I think it's just so important.
Yeah, that's what I think. And I was more than happy to contribute to this dialogue of basically saying that, we all go through things that may not be especially visible with people, but it doesn't mean
Mm,
it is good to check in with people. Like sometimes just the asking how someone is and,
mm.
want to talk to them it can make someone's day really, or just smile. Because as well as the song says, when you smile, the whole world smiles with you.